before the hand reaches outward, before the foot steps into the world to conquer, to build, to be seen, something older demands to be faced. There is a silence beneath every ambition, a wound beneath every pursuit, a fortress, or the ruins of one within the psyche of every soul that dares to shape the world before knowing the terrain of their own darkness. What drives you forward? You say it is passion. You say it is a dream. But often, it is pain in disguise, the whisper of a wound still open, still bleeding beneath the armor of movement. We build outward to escape inward. We chase empires not because we are whole, but because something shattered long ago and we mistook speed for healing. There is a forgotten war within. Repression buries the bodies. Silence cements the graves. The mind has its shadows. Not all memories become stories. Some are buried, like bones beneath centuries of denial. But they speak. Oh, how they speak through the tremble in your voice. The rage that cannot find its source. The smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. The unconscious is not silent. It is simply ignored. How much of your life has been dictated by what you refuse to feel? Building success before healing inside is like trying to build a skyscraper on sand. You might rise high at first, but without dealing with your inner pain, everything can collapse. Think about someone who pushes hard to achieve career success while ignoring their mental health. Eventually, the pressure becomes too much. The child who learned to stay silent when their soul cried out. The adolescent who found safety in detachment. The adult who learned to smile while dying inside. They all live in you, still waiting. And so we move not forward, but in circles, repeating, reacting, rewinding. Life becomes a ritual of avoidance. Intimacy feels like danger, stillness like threat. The silence of the night becomes unbearable because it echoes the silence of childhood. But you cannot kill the past by ignoring it. You can only make it your master. There is no peace without confrontation, no freedom without dissent. To heal, you must face what's buried deep inside you. It's like looking into a mirror and facing all your fears, not turning away from the pain you've been avoiding. It's about confronting the old wounds that shape who you are today and understanding what's been holding you back. Your unconscious mind isn't some mysterious force. It's simply the part of you that holds your deepest truths. It's shaped by everything you've experienced, even the things you've forgotten. And it's the foundation of so much of what you do, feel, and think often without you even realizing it. Have you ever wondered why you sabotage the very things you want? Why the love you crave terrifies you? Why peace feels foreign, while chaos feels like home? These are not coincidences. They are signposts. The psyche does not forget. It encodes. And what is resilience, if not the courage to remain conscious when everything inside you begs to sleep? You can't achieve true success until you've taken care of yourself first. If you focus only on external goals without addressing your inner struggles, that success won't last. Think about how many people reach their dreams only to feel empty inside. True strength starts from within. The inner fortress is not perfection. It is honesty. It is the raw, unfiltered acceptance of your wounds, your contradictions, your unheroic truths. It is standing in the ruins of your denial and choosing not to run, to hold yourself. Not the image, not the performance, but the flawed, frightened, grieving self. This is the genesis of real strength. We are not born fragmented, but we become so. Traumas divide us. Expectations fracture us. Shame silences the most authentic parts of our being. And so we exile ourselves from ourselves. We become strangers in our own lives. What the world calls success often masks a deeper failure. The failure to know oneself, to integrate, to come home. You do not need more goals. You need fewer lies, less avoidance, fewer masks, more truth. What if everything you're chasing is not a dream, but a distraction? The outer empire can wait. The world can wait. But your unconscious will not. It has waited long enough. There is a fortress to rebuild, stone by stone, truth by truth, not with ambition, but with attention. Not with conquest, but with confrontation. Not with force, but with feeling. This is not weakness. This is the source of all real power. The self, undivided. The psyche, unmasked. The heart, unhidden. Build the inner fortress before you chase the outer empire. We were not meant to survive unscathed. The psyche scars as the body does not visibly, but intricately, not loudly, but permanently. Somewhere along the corridor of childhood, we learned to build walls, not to house the soul, but to protect it. And protection has a price: isolation. To not feel pain, we numbed joy. To not be abandoned, we abandoned first. We armored the spirit so thoroughly that not even our own truth could reach us anymore. Defense becomes identity. And so, the fortress once meant to keep the terror out becomes the place we can no longer leave. The walls become mirrors, and the mirrors lie. We stare into them, mistaking the reflection for the self, rehearsing roles until the mask adheres like skin. And beneath it all, something howls, not with sound that would be too easy. It howls with forgetting, with fatigue, with the ache that has no wound to point to. It howls in the tremor before sleep, in the quiet after the applause, in the ache of having everything and feeling nothing. The psyche survives not through victory, but through compromise. The cost of safety is always a severance. To dissociate is to survive with silence. It is to cut away the unbearable and let the body walk on. But the cut parts do not die. They wait, they distort, they become symptom, shadow, dream. The symptom is a monument to the unbearable. Anxiety, depression, compulsion. They are not enemies. They are encrypted truths, letters written in the language of the unconscious, waiting to be read not as problems but as messages. You are not broken. You are bearing the weight of the unspoken. And what is a fortress that keeps out feeling? It is not strength. It is anesthesia. And to live anesthetized is to bury not only suffering, but desire. The libido dies in captivity. Not just sexual desire, but the will to create, to risk, to become. We forget this. The unconscious does not want comfort. It wants coherence. To be coherent means to be in pieces and still tell the truth. But coherence cannot be achieved through denial. The mind demands honesty. If it cannot have it in the light, it will scream for it in the dark. This is why so many wake up in the middle of the night with terror. This is why so many fear stillness. In the noise of daily life, we outrun the echo. But in stillness, the echo catches us, and it says, "Remember. Remember the thing you promised to forget, the shame you swallowed, the voice you silenced, the face you wore to make love while dying inside, the joy you extinguished to be accepted, the self you buried so the world could love your ghost. To become whole, you must exhume the body, the forgotten self, the rejected part. Integration isn't about becoming someone new, it's about bringing all the parts of yourself back together. It's about grieving the time you spent pretending to be someone you're not, and accepting that all the parts of you, even the broken ones, are worth embracing. There is a madness in healing, not the chaos of breakdown, but the disruption of all false order. What you called stability was a mausoleum. What you called control was submission. What you called strength was silence and shackles. You must let it fall, all of it, the persona, the lie, the armor, because beneath it there is someone ancient, not wounded but waiting, not broken but hidden, not passive but powerful. But this encounter cannot be hurried. The unconscious opens like a wound, not a window. It must be approached with reverence and ruthlessness. Reverence for its mystery, ruthlessness for the lies it has housed. And make no mistake, the unconscious will test you. It will not give up its secrets easily. It has been silenced for too long. It will demand that you bleed truth, that you sit with the unbearable and not flinch, that you walk into the rooms you swore never to enter again. But if you endure, not escape, you will emerge with something unteachable. Depth, not charisma, not charm, not achievement. Depth. And depth terrifies the world, because depth does not perform. It does not seduce. It confronts. It undoes. It exposes. But it also liberates. A person who has faced their own unconscious cannot be owned, cannot be manipulated, cannot be seduced by illusions, because they have met the darkest part of themselves and did not die. This is what it means to build the inner fortress, not to protect the ego, but to house the truth of who you are, when no one is looking, when the applause fades, when the mask dissolves. To build the inner fortress is to renounce all false empires, the empire of image, of control, of pleasing, of hiding, and to sit in the ruins of what was never real until something real begins to speak. It will speak slowly, quietly, but it will be your voice, and this time you will listen. What if the thing inside you that sabotages your joy isn't a flaw, but a fidelity, a loyalty, not to your future, but to a wound so ancient, so formative, that to betray it feels like death? This is the secret the psyche guards like a jealous god, that much of our suffering is not accidental. It is chosen, not consciously. No, the conscious mind recoils from pain, but the unconscious, it remembers pain as home. It knows suffering as structure. And so we return to it, again and again. We call it self-sabotage, but the truth is darker, more faithful. We return to what hurt us not because we want pain, but because the pain shaped us. It gave us form. And what is form, if not identity? To heal is to dissolve. To change is to risk disintegration. And the ego would rather bleed in familiar ways than risk the terror of transformation. Freud called it the death drive that pulled toward repetition, toward stasis, toward the quiet annihilation of self through cycles that never end, the compulsion to repeat, the drive to return to the source of the trauma, not to undo it, but to relive it, as if doing so might finally give it meaning. You think you want peace, but part of you craves collapse. Because in collapse you don't have to pretend. Because in collapse the burden of performance disappears. Because in collapse you get to be raw again, real again, helpless but honest. This is why so many people live just at the edge of burnout, at the brink of ruin. They do not want to fall, but they want, more than anything, for something to make them stop climbing. No one teaches us how to rest. We are praised for endurance, for pushing through, for ignoring the signal, for making ourselves machine. But even machines break, and when they do, no one blames the steel. You are not meant to be efficient. You are meant to be whole. But wholeness is slow, and the modern psyche, addicted to speed, to stimulus, to survival, has lost its tolerance for slowness. Healing requires slowness. Slowness demands presence, and presence exposes pain. So we resist. We keep busy. We stay loud. We use noise as anesthesia, movement as evasion. Even spirituality becomes performance, a new persona draped over the same old avoidance. But the unconscious is not fooled. It watches. It waits. And when your defenses are weakest, when you are alone, exhausted, staring at the ceiling in the dark, it whispers, "Come back. Come back to what was left behind. Come back to what was never spoken. Come back to the moment your voice fractured. Come back to the place where you split in two, the self that survived and the self that was sacrificed." Because here is the truth the world cannot bear. Some part of you died so the rest of you could live. This is not metaphor. This is not drama. This is fact. The psyche amputates. Not flesh, but feeling. Not limbs, but longing. And every amputation leaves a ghost. So you chase success, but it never satisfies. Because the one who would have rejoiced in it is gone. You pursue love, but it never feels safe. Because the one who would have trusted it is buried. You chase visibility, but feel unseen. Because the one who needed to be witnessed was silenced long ago. This is not failure. This is fragmentation. And healing is not growth. It is recovery. Not the upward arc of progress, but the downward plunge into the shadow. Not becoming something new, but remembering what you were before the forgetting and the shadow. The real shadow is not darkness. It is truth. The truth you repressed to be good. The truth you denied to be accepted. The truth you traded for love, for approval, for survival. To face it is terrifying, because to face it means to reckon with the fact that much of your life has been architecture for avoidance. But to not face it is worse, because to not face it is to remain haunted by dreams that go unlived, by needs that turn to neuroses, by love that hardens into defense. There is no way out but through. You must enter the wound. You must sit with the child you once were, not as a therapist, not as a fixer, not even as a parent, but as a witness. Let them rage. Let them weep. Let them name what you refuse to feel. And you, the adult, you must not turn away, must not rationalize, must not shame, because this, finally, is what they have always needed. Not advice, not analysis, not platitudes. Only this, presence. Unflinching, radical presence. And when you do this not once, but again and again, something begins to shift. The death drive weakens, not because it disappears, but because it is no longer alone. It has been seen. And the unconscious, like every exile, only wants to come home. You will not be the same. Not if you do this honestly. Not if you truly listen to the voice beneath the symptom, the emotion behind the persona, the memory behind the mood. You wanted healing to be gentle, but healing is not gentle. Healing is revolt. It is the uprising of everything you pushed below: the unloved, the ungrieved, the unspoken, demanding to breathe. You wanted clarity. What you got was chaos. Good. Chaos means the false order is collapsing. Chaos means the mask is cracking. To integrate is not to fix. It is not to repair a broken machine. To integrate is to gather the scattered selves, the orphaned voices, the repressed instincts, the censored truths, and allow them to speak again. Every time you abandoned a truth to survive, you left behind a part of your soul. These parts did not disappear. They became symptoms. They became patterns. They became your silent theology, the way you came to believe the world works. You learned that love must be earned, that need is weakness, that vulnerability is danger. You did not learn these things in words. You learned them in glances withheld, in affection turned conditional, in silence that screamed louder than rage. And so you split, one self to be loved, another to carry the truth. Now they must meet. You cannot integrate what you do not welcome. You cannot welcome what you still judge. So, the rageful child, the needy adolescent, the manipulative, attention-seeking, terrified parts of you, they are not enemies. They are not sins. They are survivors. They learned how to exist when existence offered no safety. They deserve reverence, not rejection. The part of you that lies learned it had to. The part of you that clings learned love disappears. The part of you that seduces learned invisibility was death. And the part of you that distrusts even joy learned it was dangerous to hope. These are not pathologies. These are adaptations. But they have outlived their time. They are ruins now, and ruins are sacred. Walk through them slowly. Let your fingers touch the stone. Let your tears fall where you once fell silent. This is not regression. This is return. To integrate is to re-inherit, to remember, to restore citizenship to every part of yourself exiled in the name of survival. The psyche is not linear. It is a house with many rooms. Some have been locked for years. Integration is not knocking politely. It is breaking the lock, lighting a candle, letting the dust rise and the memories speak. Some rooms will smell of grief, others of rage, others still of the sweetness. You forgot the laughter that once flowed freely, the wonder that was not yet poisoned by vigilance. You will feel all of it. That is how you know it is working. You are thawing. Integration does not mean you will never suffer again. It means your suffering will no longer be silent. It will have shape. It will have context. It will no longer be a ghost dragging you through life. It will be a voice you sit with at the table. To integrate is to stop hiding from yourself. It is to let your contradictions breathe, to let your doubts speak, to let the soul exist without supervision. And yes, you will lose things. You will lose people who only loved the performance. You will lose habits that once numbed you. You will lose ambitions that were never truly yours. But you will gain one thing: gravity. You will walk differently, not as one trying to prove their worth, not as one seducing validation, but as one who has looked into the abyss of their own being and did not flinch. This is power. Not the kind that dominates, but the kind that endures. Not the kind that manipulates, but the kind that cannot be manipulated. Because when the unconscious is no longer an enemy, the world cannot hold you hostage. You become sovereign. not because you are perfect, but because you are whole. Integration is not an end. It is the beginning of true freedom. But freedom, too, is not what we were taught. Freedom is not ease. It is not bliss. It is not detachment. It is responsibility for your rage, for your need, for your light, for your darkness. To be free is to carry all of it and still choose truth. Not comfort, not applause, not belonging. Truth, because truth is the only soil in which the real self can root. And from that root, something finally begins to grow. Not the empire of ambition, not the mask of the high-functioning wounded, but something quieter, more dangerous, more alive, the self undivided. You've come back from the underworld, not with treasure, not with triumph, but with truth. And truth is not always welcomed, because most of the world still lives behind the mask you've just removed. You are no longer fluent in denial. You have unlearned the language of pretense. You cannot, will not return to the polite hell of smiling faces and silent screams. You are changed, and the world will notice, but not always in celebration. Some will sense in you something dangerous, someone who cannot be easily manipulated, someone who listens too closely, sees too clearly. Not because you seek control, but because you no longer require it. You no longer need to be liked to feel valid. You no longer shrink yourself to keep others comfortable. You no longer abandon your boundaries in the name of harmony. This is not arrogance. It is clarity. When you become whole, the fractured systems around you will push back because your wholeness threatens their structure. The family system that fed on your silence, the relationship that relied on your caretaking, the job that profited from your over-functioning. Now, you speak. Now, you say no. Now, you walk away, and they will call you selfish, dramatic, cold. Let them. You are not here to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding themselves. You are here to embody what they still fear: freedom. But freedom is not an absence of struggle. It is the refusal to betray yourself in the name of belonging. You do not become invulnerable, you become undefended. There is a difference. You feel more, not less. But the feeling no longer fragments you, because you have a center now, not an image, but a presence. A presence rooted in grief, in rage, in shame, but no longer ruled by it. The ghosts still whisper, but you know their names now. You've sat with them. They are not monsters anymore, just memories. You are not triggered in the same way, not because the world has changed, but because you no longer abandon yourself in response to it. This is power, not dominance, not performance, just presence. To walk into a room without pretending, to look into eyes without needing to impress, to say what you mean, even if your voice shakes, to be seen, truly seen, and not flinch. You do not control the narrative anymore. You become the narrative. There is a gravity in you now. Others feel it. Some are drawn. Some are repelled. It does not matter. You are no longer performing for acceptance. You are offering reality. Whoever cannot hold it was never meant to hold you. This is not loneliness. This is solitude. Loneliness is the hunger for others to complete you. Solitude is the fullness of your own presence. When you become whole, even your emptiness is sacred. You no longer fill the void with distraction. You sit with it. Listen to it. You know that the void is not absence. It is invitation. An invitation to create, not consume, to relate, not escape, to be, not become. You move differently now, not faster, not more efficiently, more honestly. You no longer chase time, you inhabit it. And the work, whatever it may be, becomes different. Not a monument to your worth, not a mask for your wounds, but an extension of your truth. You no longer sell your soul for productivity. You offer your presence for connection. This presence cannot be faked. It is carved, shaped by dissent, by grief, by confrontation with your own shadow. It is the residue of having been to hell and listening there. Presence is the aura of integration. It is the fragrance of coherence. It is what remains when the persona dissolves. And it is rare, which is why the world aches for it and fears it. To be a presence is to be disruptive, not loudly, not with spectacle, but simply by being. Because in your presence, others feel their own absence. In your stillness, they hear the noise they live in. In your truth, they sense their own betrayal. But some will stay, not because they are unafraid, but because they are ready to unmask, ready to feel, ready to come home. And that is the gift of your integration. You become a mirror, not of perfection, but of possibility. You show others what it looks like to stop running, to stop performing, to stop dividing. And slowly, not through effort, but through embodiment, you invite them back to themselves. This is how the world changes. Not through force, through presence. One psyche at a time, becoming whole. One voice, telling the truth. One body, no longer at war with itself. This is not the end. This is the beginning of the life that was waiting beneath the mask. You are not here to be admired. You are here to be real. Let them see you, even if they don't understand, especially if they don't. After the descent, after the confrontation, after the quiet storm of integration, something unexpected begins to stir. Not victory, not relief, but space. Space where anxiety once lived. Space once crammed with fear, with craving, with compulsive need to be more, to be elsewhere, to be other than what you are. And in this space, something ancient stretches awake. Not your wounds, not your ambition, but your creative force. The psyche is not a machine. It is a garden. When the soil is poisoned by repression, nothing grows. But clear it not with violence, but with care, and life returns. You are not just here to survive, you are here to shape. Not in the frantic way of the fragmented who create as a way to outrun themselves. You create now not to be seen, but to see. Not to escape yourself, but to express yourself. Not to be validated, but to give voice to what was once silenced. And this too is sacred. Creation is not performance. It is emergence. The self, no longer divided, becomes language. It becomes music, movement, architecture, not of empire, but of essence. You are no longer creating to prove something. You are creating because there is something in you that cannot stay quiet anymore. And this is the paradox. The deeper you go into the self, the less personal your work becomes. It begins to carry the weight of the collective. Because when you speak from your deepest truth, you are speaking for everyone who has been silenced in the same way. The more honest you are, the more universal you become. The shame you reveal becomes someone else's permission. The grief you name becomes another's mirror. The rage you no longer conceal becomes a sacred revolt not against others, but against erasure. This is not art as decoration. It is art as resurrection. You are no longer molding the world in your image. You are letting the truth shape you. And through you, the world bends slightly, quietly, towards something more real. You are not here to master the world. You are here to meet it, fully, openly, without pretense. From this place, power changes shape. No longer the will to dominate. Now, the willingness to participate, to engage without losing yourself, to offer without collapsing, to be intimate without invasion, to be clear without cruelty. This is the creative self, not bound by outcome, not trapped by identity, not seduced by applause. It is fluid, fierce, free, and it does not need to be understood, only expressed. Because creation, at this depth, is not about art alone. It is about living in a way that makes room for everything you are and everything you are becoming. You speak with fewer words. You listen more closely. You move with purpose, but without urgency. You no longer chase experiences. You invite them. And if they do not come, you remain whole because you are not a seeker anymore. You are a source, and sources do not perform. They flow. This is the subtle, terrifying beauty of a coherent self. It cannot be controlled, not even by you. You no longer operate from strategy. You respond from center. This confuses people. They will ask, "What are you doing? Why did you stop chasing that goal? Why did you walk away from that person, that title, that spotlight?" And you will answer, perhaps without words, "Because it no longer serves the truth I carry. Because it cost me pieces of myself I am no longer willing to lose. Because what I am building now cannot be seen with eyes trained only on achievement. What you are building now is sacred. It is invisible at first. It does not live in resumes or social media feeds. It lives in your body, in your tone, in the way you hold eye contact without flinching. It lives in the way you create silence in rooms filled with noise. It lives in the decisions you make when no one is watching. And over time, it becomes visible. Not as empire, as field. A field where others can rest, where truth is safe, where presence is real. You become not a product but a place, a refuge, a reminder, a signal that it is possible to live without splitting, to feel without fleeing, to create without contorting. This is not an idea. This is a revolution, and it begins, as it always must, inside. You thought healing would end. It doesn't. You thought integration would complete you. It doesn't. Not because it failed, but because life doesn't ask for a single transformation. It asks for thousands. Over and over, you will be pulled back into old reflexes, back into ancient fears, back into the voices you thought were